Thank you for staying with us. All across the world, a significant number of government organizations are embracing information, communication and technology, that's ICT, as a tool for transforming and improving public service and effective governance at all levels. In 2020, when COVID-19 shut down the borders of many countries and restricted many families from leaving the confines of their houses, ICT and public service delivery APC government under President-elect Bola Tinubu prepares to commence its first national assignment for the next 4 years. Following an endorsement by the Nigerian people, there is no better time to initiate this new journey in promoting a new digitization agenda than now. Ni Bodimore, a member of the Computer Professionals Registration Council of Nigeria, CPN, and also a member of the Nigeria Computer Society, joins us in the studio for this conversation. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Happy to be here.
Right.
Thank you.
Now, when you look at the ICT sector, one would say we are not doing very badly at all, because reports say that the ICT sector contributed 18.44% to the nation's GDP in the second quarter of 2022. And one is wondering, how did we achieve this in the first place?
Okay. I think just before you started, you had mentioned when COVID occurred, that it essentially spurred a new wave of innovation, because wherever there's a travesty or problems, new innovation tends to come in, right? And over the years, we've seen new innovations coming across the world, and Nigeria is not left behind. I think another thing is that we have the Nigerian demographic is working in our favor. We have a lot of young people in Nigeria, as you know. And a lot of young people tend to gravitate towards technology and innovation. That's what we are observing in Nigeria, right? And so we have a lot of innovation occurring in Nigeria. We have a lot of investment coming into Nigeria. And, Nigeria is one of the top destinations for venture investments for technology. People see other young people that they went to school with, that they went, doing fantastic things and growing companies, become billion-dollar companies. They too want to join in, and what's going on in this IT, and even beyond the young people, other people who are in traditional industries are also looking at how to tech enable their businesses, so that they can harness more efficiency and compete with it much better, or just generally, because there's compensation in the ICT sector is much higher, so that of course will drive more people come in and increase growth in the industry.
All right. As much as Nigeria is taking advantage and building on that entrepreneurship in the area of the issue of the 5G technology is just coming to Nigeria now, and then we also see the artificial intelligence is just taking over the world right now. Nigeria is still somewhere trying to catch up that level of things, but how much of a game changer will the 5G technology coming on board? Now we talk of the ChatGPT, where every youth want to explore, getting to know what ChatGPT is and how it works and so on. Now, putting all of these new standards of technology, taking things to another level, how much of it would change the game?
Well, pretty much all of it. The world is changing very rapidly. We're going to see over the next decade a lot of new changes. What the world in, say, 10 years' time or even 5 years' time will be almost unrecognizable. Wow. We are seeing a lot of trends at the moment around the world, such as the rise in the use of electric vehicles. Of course, as you mentioned, the new wave. It's very hard for a lot of people to understand exactly how powerful artificial intelligence has become, or artificial general intelligence, which is what GPT is trying to be, essentially. So it's going to change everything, right? And I will take a quick. Let me just correct something. You mentioned that Nigeria is maybe struggling behind. No, just I think last year, there was a Nigerian startup that won the AI prize in the Gulf International Technology Exchange. I can't remember the name. I think it was something like Chinika or something like that. And they were it beat about 750 other applicants. So we're doing great things here. I think over my own career, which is spanned over 20 years, I've seen a lot of young Nigerian people that are extremely smart, right? And what I find is that all they need is a little bit of support at the age to nurture them and to have male and female, right? That have that, maybe because we have a very strong STEM back core from our schools. When I went to school, we all understood. A lot of us understood maths, the technology, physics, everything like that, right? So that also helps, right? So I think in the exciting new technologies that are going to change the world, such as AI and machine learning, Nigeria actually has an uncommon advantage within Africa, right, to be a leader, right, and possibly even around the world with the right support. And we are seeing that support. For example, there's an agency now called the National Center for AI and Robotics that is been established. That's I think it's an agency, it's an institute, NITDA, Nigerian Information Technology Development Agency, that and they are focused on that AI research and using government support to drive AI research and AI innovation in Nigeria. And so that these are things that are occurring. And people need to be aware that this is occurring and that these supports are available in Nigeria at the moment.
So how can the incoming administration, latch on this, take advantage of what is already on ground? Yes, the president-elect has said that he will create about 1 million jobs in the ICT sector in 2 years. So what would you want him to do such that we take advantage of what we already have on the ground?
Very good. Thank you, Veronica. The first thing is to understand the lay of the land, what exactly has occurred over the last 8 years. We've had enormous innovation and changes that essentially have led to this, that stat that you quoted earlier, that ICT for the first time ever has contributed about over 18% to our GDP, and it's going to continue to grow, right? So for example, let's go a quick run through. We have the Ministry of Digital Economy, Communication and Digital Economy, right? And under them, they have NITDA, which has pioneered things like the AI and Robotics Center, the Nigerian Data Protection Regulations. Then you have NCC, which has, NIMC, Nigerian Identity Management Commission, that has registered just under 100 million NINs. That's extremely powerful because for the first time we have a real identity for our people, and we that would spur another round of innovation. Then we have NCC with the telcos, worked with the telcos to roll out 5G, which is again another innovation that I've seen in my own lifetime in Nigeria. And so the incoming administration, President-elect Bola Tinubu, will need to essentially consolidate on what is on ground, especially that Nigerian Startup Act, right? What it does is provides, first of all, a coherent policy clearinghouse called the Council for Digital Innovation, where the president, vice president, ministers, CBN governor all sit in that board, and they review all policies that affect startups, creation and innovation in Nigeria. So, cases where someone will just wake up one day and decide to ban all blockchain, and there are good reasons for it, but there are unintended effects. So that would stop all that and have a clearinghouse and for that. Then, most importantly, then you have this something called the Startup Enablement Portal, Startup Support and Engagement Portal, which is meant to help to register all startups and provide them access to tax breaks, right? Provide them access to investors, provide them access to even registering to be able to support MDAs, ministries and departments and agencies. And perhaps one of the most important ones is this something called the Nigerian Seed Fund, Seed Investment Fund, which is according to the Act, provides annually 10 billion naira of new seed funding for young startups. Now, what we find, but that's not just the federal government, right? The federal government is also working with other private sector partners, other development agencies, such as the AFDB, who have now come in recently with something called the IDICE, which is a $618 million fund to support digital innovation and creative industries in Africa, especially in Nigeria. So they are coming in with this about just over $200 million, in partnership with the Agence Française de Développement and the Islamic Development Bank to provide additional funding. So what all these monies, sometimes people say audio money, all that kind of stuff, but this is real. This is federal government funding, even just a minority providing a minority of the funding, but most of it is coming from development agencies and even existing venture capital organizations. I think last year, Nigerian startups attracted just over $1 billion in investment, right? Over the last 2 years, I think they've gone over $2 billion in investment in Nigeria. So these are things that are happening. So for young people out there, right, what I would like to say is that, look, there is now a platform to support you when you have an idea and you don't have any money to start, or you need mentorship. It's very important for the new administration, right, to put all the right people in the right, the square pegs and square holes, and ensure that we are driving these policies the right way to ensure that we are creating jobs. Because at the end of the day, it comes down to jobs. So in 4 years' time, 4 years is very, very quick. Very quick. You are going to come back to the electorate, and you're going to say, okay, and where's your report card? And for a lot of people, it all comes down to just jobs. What is it? Am I employed? Are my children unemployed? That's what it comes down to. They vote with their pocket, right? So whatever we are doing, however fancy all these policies are, we must always remember that the goal is to reduce unemployment. Unemployment is very high at the moment, unfortunately. As we work with the private sector and work with and try to spur technological innovation, we're going to create more companies, and they'll create more jobs and provide tax breaks to them, right? So that would help to create more jobs and put the government in the right stead for the next election. Hopefully.
Right. When we talk about ICT, the sector that comes to mind easily is the private sector.
Yes.
But we know that what the public sector does has a great influence on our daily living, as the case may be. Now, ICT coming on board, and like you are charging the incoming administration of President-elect Tinubu, what public services would you like to see ICT changing and modifying or upgrading, as the case may be? Okay,
very good question. I think ultimately sometimes we get carried away with technology, for entertainment or social. But there are some real, real problems that we need to solve in Nigeria in education, healthcare, agriculture yield, boosting agricultural yield, even transportation and logistics. So what I would like the new government to do is to do what we call a call for startups, where you are saying, look, these are the critical areas that we need support from young people. They come with innovative ideas. I think they've done something similar in Lagos, right? Well, make sure that it's very deliberate, that we need people to come up with innovative solutions to these critical problems with agricultural yield, agricultural price discovery, electronic medical records integration, education mass literacy, right? Because we need to build our capacity, our training and capacity development, not for just 100 people at a time, but we're talking of people. We're a very large country. We're getting larger by the minute. So we need to train people with the new digital skills of the future. So those are things that we need to, the president-elect should be very razor focused on, right? And to ensure that we are every bit of innovation that we are funding is targeted at these sectors that are going to drive the economic growth in the future. Because as they've said in the Renewed Hope Manifesto that we are targeting 7% growth annually, for the next 10 years, so that which will double.
Task.
It's a huge task. But it has happened before. It has happened before. We did have, in about several years ago, we had a period of growth of about 7% compounded annual growth rate. So it's something that can happen again. Especially when you drive agricultural yield, so that when they think about the time it takes to harvest a tomato in 2 days, can that same tomato be in a shop shelf in South Africa and Cape Town in 3 days? Those are kind of things that would drive economic growth. But you can't do that without technology, without infrastructure, which is what the government, the current government has focused on heavily. So it's like a great layup for the new government to do a slam dunk So, yeah.
All right. Now, one issue that is of major concern is how we manage data in this country. Data protection is a major concern with regards to the fact that we know data mining is a thing already as we speak, and protecting people's information, data, is also very key, which we don't really do well with in Nigeria if we are saying that we are going full force into information technology and all of that. How would you want the government to address this?
Okay, very good question. Again, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's an existing regulation called the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation, which is managed by NITDA, which is the Government Agency for Information Technology Development. And we need to increase compliance, awareness and compliance of that regulation. So sometimes you find that if you are browsing foreign sites, sometimes they would always ask you to accept, if they'll tell you that, look, they're going to be collecting data about you, right? But we don't see that a lot in Nigerian sites. So we need to increase that compliance so that all our sites are aware of their responsibility with regards to collecting user information, and make sure that users provide disclosure. I think a lot of the larger organizations are aware of NDPR regulations and they implement it. We need to expand that. So I give an example. So if you're shopping online, those websites will not, but they may redirect you to a payment gateway because there are regulations, PCI DSS. They call them PCI DSS in the financial industry. Yeah, that govern those things, and they are global regulations, and they are enforced very strictly, right? So nobody wants to be collecting information, credit card information, sensitive information that would potentially put them in trouble. So they would rather delegate it to other people. So that is what you get with awareness and enforcement. So NIPTA has its work cut out for it in this over the next 4 years to raise awareness about NDPR regulations and ensuring that companies are protecting data, they are encrypting data, and they are only sharing it when it is allowed to do. They are allowed to do so. Yeah.
All right. It's unfortunate we have to leave the conversation here now because of time, Mike. But we must thank you, Ni Budimore, Member, Computer Professionals Registration Council of Nigeria Computer Solutions.
I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Right. Let's tell you now that the views and reaction of all our